Hi, and welcome to Home Tech. Kind of have a little sobering intro this week. Jason, we lost a good one this week.
We did. Crestron founder George Feldstein passed away, as probably most of our listeners, especially those who work in the industry, are probably aware after a fight with brain cancer, and definitely sad news. He was obviously an inspirational figure in our industry, and without question a pioneer and a thought leader, and really did a lot to push AV and systems integration along to where it is currently. And definitely our thoughts and prayers go out to his family, and very, very sad news in the systems integration industry.
Absolutely. I mean, we on this show, we talk to people who, have gotten into the industry within, maybe the last couple of months, a couple of years. And George has been doing this for, 30, 45 years. He is literally one of the founders of home automation. And I actually had the pleasure of meeting him a couple of times. I kind of ran across him at CEDIA. He was always at the shows, a very identifiable person. If you ever saw him at the show, he's always standing there, always happy to be there and talking, and would talk to just about anybody. Just a super nice guy. And so every interaction I have had with him, like I said, I met him once or twice and just said hi and said, it's an honor to meet you. But, other than just a quick chat, just seems like a really nice guy and an engineer at heart.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I never had the pleasure to meet him, but everyone that I've talked to that did always just talked about what a nice guy he was. And really, I think the kind of the overriding theme that I hear from so many different people is just that he was truly an engineer at heart. He wasn't what you might think of as a typical businessman. He was really an engineer who kind of managed to turn his true passion into a very successful business. And I think that's really one of the things that people, when they think about George Feldstein, that always comes to mind. And I was at my office at work the other day, and when this news had just broke, and I was actually discussing it with one of our engineers, and he told a cool story about, I believe it was at CEDIA. I can't recall, but it was one of the trade shows that he was at. And he ended up at a dinner. This engineer at my company ended up at a dinner, and he was sitting with some of the big wigs from Crestron, and George Feldstein was at the table there with him, and he ended up getting in a conversation with him, and he kind of mentioned the DM technology, which at the time was pretty new. And he said that George Feldstein's eyes just kind of lit up and started just, talking about the technology, and literally like grabbed a napkin and started like sketching out the circuitry of how like DM actually works. And that I just thought was such a cool story, because there are very few people in the industry who are kind of at that level and position in a company who really are going to sit down, and that's just really what makes them tick, to like start sketching out like circuitry on a napkin and getting down to that level of detail about product is really kind of his hallmark. And I think why, one of the reasons why he was such an inspirational figure in the industry.
Yeah, and you simply can't think of home automation without thinking of Crestron, and you can't think of Crestron without thinking about George. It's like he's just a fixture within our industry, and will be missed.
Yep, absolutely. And like I said, thoughts and prayers go out to his family, and I think enough said there. We don't need to dwell on it. Very, very sad story, but I think just honoring his memory in our industry is the important thing, and really appreciating what he did to kind of advance home automation and systems integration to where it's at today. Absolutely.
So just want to take a couple of seconds here to thank everybody for tuning in and listening. You can find show notes for this episode at HomeTech.fm. /show/39. So this is the 39th episode, Jason.
Yeah.
We're getting into this thing.
We're getting up there, and definitely looking forward to sharing this episode. We've had some good ones lately, and I thought this one was no exception. We had Phil Dumas on, and Phil is the founder of UniKey, and UniKey is the technology behind the Kēvo smart lock from Kwikset. And I think that the smart lock industry is an interesting one to watch. And our colleague over at the Smart Home Show, Mike Wolf, I know follows Smart Locks extensively, and it's always interesting to, kind of listen to him talk about it. And I was really looking forward to having Phil on to kind of share his story, and I thought it was a great conversation. Look forward to sharing that.
Yeah, it definitely was. He's a Orlando-based company.
Yeah,
which
right in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, and like every conversation we have, I was telling him kind of after we recorded, I was telling him, hey, every conversation we have, Jason starts talking to somebody and like, oh yeah, we're right down the street here in LA.
Come check out the facility. Yeah,
I get none of that here in Florida.
yeah, not.
I get my parents have a house out there. It's like it's a retirement community.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. He's representing Central Florida on the tech scene, and who could say that's a bad thing?
Oh, absolutely. So I guess we just got a couple items to cover here in the news that we thought were pretty interesting this week. Looks like Walmart and both Walmart and Target are going to have some home automation fixtures this holiday season.
Yeah, and can't say it's too surprising, but the stories kind of broke sort of back to back, and looks like Walmart is going to be rolling out connected home displays in looks like 1,700 stores nationwide, and Target I think is doing a little bit more of a limited rollout right now. I think the number I saw was 500. And they're sort of testing the water. But yeah, both major retailers and both getting into the smart home space. So it's always interesting. I mean, now that just makes, I don't know the exact dates, but I'd say probably within the last year, maybe two tops, we've now seen Lowe's, Home Depot, Staples, Best Buy, and now Walmart and Target all entering into the smart home space. So obviously they see something there, very hot market, and it's just always interesting when these stories break.
Yeah, I think this time of year, these stores start looking for something unique to put inside, to get a couple extra bucks for the holidays. I mean, this is their season, but it's cool to see technology that you and I, we both use or have looked at or talked about or even talked to some of the founders of these companies. May end up on some of those shelves there. I think it's just really cool to see that kind of become more of a mainstream thing.
Yeah, I think so, and it promotes awareness of the technology in general. So I think overall it's a rising tide for the whole industry, and I know there are a number of integrators out there who probably look at the sort of takeover. I don't want to say the takeover, but kind of the expansion of smart home technology into retail space, and maybe look at that as a threat. And in certain ways it is, if you're an integrator serving kind of the lower to middle end of the market, particularly, this could potentially be troubling. But I think that's kind of maybe the wrong way to look at it. And that's sort of a topic that we're passionate about here on Home Tech, is it just kind of promoting awareness of what's happening at all levels of the market, so that you can understand as an integrator kind of how to position yourself, understand what's out there, and understand ways that you can sort of add value on top of that or in place of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is an awareness thing. I often give kind of an example of, we have a sort of a retail showroom here, and I have clients come in all the time, and they want a smart TV. And it's
right.
Like, no, you really don't want a smart TV from what you're telling me. You want this, and they end up walking out with exactly what they want. It may not have been a smart TV. It may have just been like a Blu-ray player with smart features in it, or an Apple TV or something. But and at the same time, they'll get a universal remote to make it all work right. I mean, it's an awareness thing. So integrators use all this good stuff that's going to be at Target and Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's. Use it to your advantage. This is what's going to bring people into your doors, because they're going to have questions about this stuff. So it's good to know about it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it changes the context when you go out and you see this technology displayed on a nice retail display, because it just puts it in context a little bit. And I know the Best Buy here locally, I've been to a couple times lately picking up some things, and they've got a connected home display there at the Best Buy, and it's just cool to walk that aisle. Even for me, somebody who lives and breathes this stuff and works with it every day, I still, when I go to Best Buy, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go check out this aisle and go see what they have. And just, to kind of see that stuff in retailers, I get excited about it, but I can see how other, people have different perceptions about it. The reality is that this is just, it's obviously just the trend, and all of these big retailers want into the smart home, and I think we're just going to, continue to see that evolve.
Yeah, and not only retailers. This week, Verizon announced they have a new Fios router that's going to support some faster speeds, but also has Z-Wave built into it.
Yeah, and that was not an aspect of the story that was like really, unless you were looking for it, it was kind of easy to miss. But to me, that was like the biggest news about it. It was sort of touted as a faster router and stronger Wi-Fi for your home and whatnot. But really, the interesting aspect of this router is the fact that it has Z-Wave built right into it. And clearly, that is an indication that Verizon isn't done with their smart home effort. I know they, kind of shut down one of their initiatives that they had earlier this year. And even the talk at the time was that they're not done here. They're just sort of retrenching maybe and kind of figuring out a different approach. And I think we're starting to see the beginnings of that.
Yeah, I think it was Zonoff, that company. I want to say Mike Wolf had an interview with one of their founders. I want to say his name was Mike Harris. I'm not particularly 100%
I think you're
sure.
correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I remember him mentioning that next year we're going to see routers go into the home with basically the routers will be a hub for home automation.
Right.
And this this is going to be a trend. You're going to see the router go into the home. It's going to have these extra radios besides Wi-Fi in it, and be a dual use device. And these service providers like Verizon and Comcast and Time Warner, they're all going to jump into this game and use these big Zonoff type companies as the back end, and
right.
And they're going to have the ability to sell home automation products to their customers, and because it's kind of what everybody wants these days.
Yeah, and it's a fairly easy sell at that point. I think when somebody, a lot of people when they sign up for cable are just moving into a new house, and a lot of times when people, as we know as integrators, that's a time in people's lives where they tend to make investments in technology and spend money on technology. And so I think it's a very natural fit for service providers like Verizon to embed these radios into their routers, because they're already putting the routers in the homes anyways. And at that point, the homeowner doesn't even necessarily need to upgrade, but they have the option to very, very easily. And, I think that makes perfect sense. Also, part of the story was that recently, not too long ago, it was kind of uncovered by Fierce Cable, which is like an outlet that covers the cable industry, that Verizon was working on like a Zigbee initiative. And so I don't know if this took the place of Zigbee because now they're doing Z-Wave, or if they're, working on multiple different solutions and they're just going to sort of try to work across different platforms. It's hard to say, but definitely interesting. And, clearly Verizon still has a lot of interest in the smart home.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. Maybe they were making a Zigbee version and figured out that, or figured that Z-Wave was probably a better way for them to go. I don't know. It's interesting. You would think that they would go with Zigbee, so that way they could lock it down and sell their own stuff. But,
yeah, I was going to say the same thing, because Zigbee, I think generally you can sort of make it more proprietary, where Z-Wave is very adamant. When you listen to the guys from Z-Wave talk, it's all about interoperability. And really, to put the Z-Wave stamp on any product, it's got to meet, a pretty, I think, stringent set of rules about being able to interoperate between different manufacturers. Whereas Zigbee is more of like a protocol that people can sort of build on top and build their own software layers where they can sort of do their own thing and lock things down a little bit more.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing here in the future.
Yep, absolutely. Well, with that, let's jump into our interview here. Again, we got Phil Dumas, who's the founder of UniKey, and they are the technology behind Kēvo, which is a smart lock that they're working on in conjunction with Kwikset. And Phil was kind enough to take some time come here onto Home Tech and share a little bit of his story, and we look forward to sharing that with you. So we will go ahead and jump into that interview. We are pleased to welcome Phil Dumas from UniKey onto the show. Phil, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for taking the time to join us. Phil is the founder of UniKey, and tonight we're going to talk about the technology. It seems like a very exciting technology and some cool things going on with what you guys are working on. But before we jump into that, maybe you can give our listeners just a brief introduction of kind of who you are and maybe a little bit of your background prior to UniKey.
Sure. Electrical engineer by degree. I say by degree because we have really smart guys that make me feel not much like an engineer anymore, but that's what you want, so that's a good thing.
That's right.
Been in the access control industry for almost a decade now. All the way back into school, we were hacking GSM chips into cars before OnStar and unlocking them with our phones. That was actually our senior design project. So, really passionate about the industry, eliminating keys. And, that's where I come from.
Very good. So, got a background in access control, and obviously that led to the idea for UniKey. But can you talk specifically about kind of the genesis of this idea and maybe when it sort of first occurred to you that innovation was sort of needed in this space?
Yeah, well, I think, for a long time, everybody's wanted to get rid of keys. There's been a lot of electronic lock implementations. Actually, right out of school, I went and worked for a company. We were doing fingerprint recognition technology for access control. So we were building fingerprint door locks and safes, computer access before it was integrated in. And, so that was great. But the problem is it didn't work every single time, mainly because of user error. People weren't placing their fingers right, or they had dry fingers. I think a lot of people are the masses are aware of those issues now, especially that it's in the iPhone. It doesn't work every single time. So the concept to move it into the phone, because your phone really is a part of you. It's almost like a biometric identifier. If you lose your phone, you feel like you're missing a limb, right? So it was kind of obvious to move it in the phone because we had more control over the user experience, and you got all these other great perks that you can send and receive keys. The problem was that was like 2005, so it was before smartphones. So the technology wasn't quite there yet. But that was about the time where the idea started to cultivate.
Wow, it's funny you mentioned that. I always have problems with the iPhone, the little unlock thing that they have. Especially my fingers are wet. Like it doesn't work. So that's, I guess, kind of been a common thing for a long time.
Yeah, I've worked with those sensors before. That the company I had worked with and had all the experience with was the company that Apple acquired. So very, very up to speed on that sensor specifically and the technology as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's been great. I absolutely love using that and having the idea, having that same kind of idea to open up your house. That's a great idea. I guess, can you give us a little bit idea behind the company UniKey and what UniKey is?
Yeah, so I started UniKey in April of 2010. So we've actually been around for a little while. We've been in quiet R&D up until I guess mid 2012. So a couple of years of quiet R&D, really focused on the electronic keychain and moving your entire keychain into your phone. So when you leave your home, you really just take your phone, wallet, and keys. And everybody knows that people are investing billions in moving the wallet into your phone, i.e. Apple Pay most recently. And UniKey is really focused on moving your entire keychain into your phone, not necessarily home automation, but your entire keychain. So whether it's your home, which we've launched the Kēvo in conjunction with Kwikset, or your office or hotel or car or whatever keys or access cards you have on it, UniKey is focused on eliminating.
Very cool. Yeah, I noticed that on your website you had a hospitality section. I thought that was a pretty cool idea, just to walk up and touch the door handle, or I guess a little point on the door to unlock the hotel room.
And that's the biggest thing too. Is yes, we are focused on eliminating keys. There's other companies that have dabbled in that area, but what's really unique about UniKey is we really focus on the user experience, and kind of our motto is it has to be more convenient than the traditional solution in every way. So, with the hotel, having to tap a RFID card or swipe a mag card, you don't have to do that anymore. You literally just walk up and grab the door handle. And same thing with, our residential application. You walk up and touch the lock. You can keep your phone in your pocket, or for the women in your purse, and you don't have to interact with it. And that's truly easier than a traditional key. That's what separates us.
Yeah, that's killer. I can't tell you how many times I've locked myself out of the house. It's actually quite embarrassing since I'm in this industry and know about these types of devices.
Well, what's so cool, and clearly I'm biased, but we all know that already, is that any iPhone is now your locksmith. So, if you lose your phone or it dies, you just have to knock on your neighbor's door and say, hey, can I borrow your phone for a minute, and log into the app and gain access. So,
wow.
Just thinking about it from that perspective, it is a really powerful technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely a very interesting looking product. And, Seth and I look forward to kind of diving in and talking a little bit more about the user experience and the technology behind that product and how it sort of functions. But I think before we jump into that, I'd just like to touch, because I know you have kind of an interesting story about getting UniKey to market that maybe all of our listeners aren't aware of. Can you touch on sort of that history of UniKey and kind of your path from an idea to basically its current iteration?
Yeah. So, look, I started UniKey in April of 2010 in Florida, and we were viewed at as a hardware company. I mean, it was basically three strikes, right? I mean, arguably the bottom of the recession, right? 2010, Florida, notoriously terrible capital market. To investors, we looked like we were building door locks, although we actually don't build them. Our partners do that. We just enable them to become smart. So we certainly, the odds were stacked against us, but I really believed in what we were doing, and it called for something a little radical, and really pushed it and got onto Shark Tank. I actually continuously applied. I set up an auto email and just hammered them and tried different pitches, and because something had to appeal to them, and finally got a call back, and then went through this whole process and was fortunate enough to actually go on the show. At the time, we were the only company to get an offer from all five sharks. So, I mean, it went extremely well for us. And that was really the pinnacle moment that kickstarted, pun intended, UniKey into what we are today. I mean, everything, started happening after that.
Sure. And so where you're at today is, like you alluded to, you have the Kēvo lock that you guys are working on in conjunction with Kwikset. And can you just touch on the sort of the relationship between UniKey and Kwikset and Kēvo? I know you guys are basically the technology that these partners are sort of licensing, but can you give us a high level view of that, and then we'll jump into the product specifically?
Yeah, I mean, Kwikset's great, right? You got to think about not reinventing the wheel. And, why should UniKey build a door lock? Why not go to one of the best door lock builders in the world, right? And why build a brand in a access market when you can go to one of the best in the world? So, I mean, they really bring some huge things to the table with their brand and their technology. People underestimate how complex locks are, but they're actually, kind of complex. And their manufacturing and distribution and mechanical engineering resources that they bring, coupled with our smart lock technology, our user experience, our team and cloud access system that we've set up, really is a great partnership where both sides bring a tremendous amount to the table. And together we've built Kēvo, and we couldn't have done it without them, and they couldn't have done it without us. And I really think we brought the best product to market with this partnership.
No doubt. So let's just take a look and talk about a little bit more about the product itself. And what exactly is Kēvo? What do you get in the box when you go out and you get a Kēvo?
Yeah, so Kēvo is this smart lock experience that is the entire lock. So you get a whole lock front and back. It fits into a standard U.S. deadbolt. It's 2 bolts to take your old one out, 2 bolts, and a couple of plugs to put Kēvo on. Super simple installation. Any do-it-yourselfer can do it. Once you're set up, you just download an app. We have what you call tap to enroll. You just push a button and tap your phone to it, and it enrolls your phone to the lock, and you're off and running. It's really that simple.
What kind of is it Bluetooth that you guys are using, or?
Yeah, Bluetooth Low Energy, which was one of the other pinnacle technologies that kind of enabled this solution. From a power standpoint, Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or even NFC is can be very power cumbersome. So Bluetooth Low Energy really helped us figure out this user experience. It also gives us the range. To where something like NFC, you have to physically, tap something to it almost, a few centimeters away. But with Bluetooth, you're able to keep your phone in your pocket basically and just touch lock to have it open.
Right. And I think for the most part, BTLE has been built into many more phones, I guess, up until recently. Obviously, the iPhone 6 has NFC technology built into it. But before that, iPhone didn't have anything other than Bluetooth to run. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much every phone for the last 2 years has incorporated both Bluetooth and Bluetooth Low Energy dual mode chips. So pretty prevalent, much more available than NFC.
Very cool. So yeah, Bluetooth makes perfect sense. Did you guys even consider? I mean, you had to obviously look at what else was out there. Did you even really strongly consider any other technologies, or was Bluetooth just kind of did you feel like sort of a no-brainer for this particular product?
I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer, but we certainly considered other technologies, and we still consider and evaluate other technologies. Mm-hmm. We have to stay up on the cutting edge and maintain our lead in this market. And, everything really revolves around the user experience, and then you work backwards from there. So you want to create this essentially seamless and minimal interaction user experience, again, easier than the traditional key. And how do you accomplish that? And today Bluetooth Low Energy is what's necessary for that. Tomorrow that may change, but we're going to continue to make sure that we're on the cutting edge of technology and we can offer the best user experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of user experience, I think now would be a good time to sort of touch on the, you talked about the setup and configuration process, kind of the unboxing, initial activation. But once it's kind of set up and running, can you touch on some of the features that are located within the app? I mean, and also I think it would be insightful to know, are you guys on iOS as well as Android?
Yeah, so from a feature perspective, clearly the most used feature is what we call touch to open. So just, again, the ability to touch the lock, not have to interact with your phone, in your pocket or purse, fully in the background, and unlocks in about a second. But also by having the electronic key on the phone, you get all this visibility to what's going on with your doors, from a history standpoint, notifications. You can see all of that in your app on what's been happening with your lock. And then you have the ability to share keys with others, right? We have a few different types of e-keys. So you can send just an anytime e-key to someone that just works anytime, or you can send an administrator key to them so they can resend keys if they'd like. Or we have scheduled keys where you can set up a service worker that, can only get in on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 3 p.m. So you really get that granularity of management that you never had access to before. And you don't have to worry about handing a key out and, someone losing it or someone making a copy of it, or if you have to fire a helper that, you're not worried about them still having a key and having to change your locks. And then we also offer guest keys, which are just simple ways of letting someone in, if they beat you home, and those keys automatically expire within 24 hours. So you don't have to worry about it. So we've really tried to give our users options, and we've done a lot of research on what people, would like. They really haven't thought about this because they haven't had, the access to this kind of control. But once you get it, it's very difficult to go back.
Right. I can see, like, it just kind of opens up a number of use cases that you couldn't do before, that just simply weren't possible.
Yeah, and then as far as platform support, today we fully support iOS 4S and above, all the operating systems on those devices, and then with the recent announcement of Android L, we're rolling out our first device. We're actually signing up beta users for the Nexus 6 device. And then as L rolls out to some of the more popular handsets, we'll be rolling that out as well.
Oh, excellent. That's definitely good news for people who aren't on in the Apple universe.
Yeah, we're huge Android fans. Literally, our office is divided. It's been a tough year. We've been out for a year to not be able to support Android. We had a lot of people let us know that we're crazy for not supporting it. But trust me, we want to. We just weren't able to. But I'm happy to say, we have it working in our office. We've had it working for quite some time now, and we're really excited to open up the Kēvo ecosystem to Android.
Excellent. So I noticed that on the website, you have an option for people who don't even have a smartphone. You have this Kēvo fob.
Yeah. Actually, so I failed to mention that Kēvo does come with a fob when you buy it. So one is included, primarily for non-smartphone users, whether it's a kid or a parent that has an older phone. So it gives you that same touch to open experience. Actually, our sales guy, Dirk, physically sewed his into one of his girls' book bags because they would always use a key and leave it on the counter. So you can she sewed it into her book bag, and she just gets to walk up and touch the door and get in, and never worry about locking herself out again as she gets home from school. So all sorts of great use cases. We've actually gotten a lot of emails about visually impaired or people with arthritis that just get to touch the lock now and not have to either fumble for the key slot or worry about turning the key. So there's all sorts of great use cases that have come out of this on top of just our initial intentions.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think when you put a product out there and you don't always know sort of who it's going to appeal to and for what uses, and I'm sure that's really rewarding for you guys to hear about people finding uses for the product that maybe you didn't even think of.
Yeah, it's very cool, and learning about those, we're excited about it, and we're asking for feedback. How can it be better, and we're continually updating our lock to improve the experience and to add features. We like to say your smart lock keeps getting smarter because we have the ability to not only update the app, which most people can do, but we've built in an update to the lock software to where the phone over Bluetooth Low Energy can update your lock. And we've deployed new features and enhancements 3 times already to our users to upgrade their experience.
Very cool. So we've talked about multiple users. What about multiple locks? How does that work? Can you have more than one Kēvo at your house? And maybe also, what about people with multiple properties?
Yeah, that's what's great. I mean, it's literally like your virtual keychain. So again, I'm a little biased, and I'm a power user, as people would expect. So I have I think about 17 e-keys for different locks on my phone. But everybody I know has one, right? But yeah, we have users that have an upwards of 25 locks. It's pretty funny, and you can absolutely enroll many locks in a single device.
I could think, like, maybe if you had, I don't know, rental properties or something like that, this would be perfect for that.
Huge for rental properties. Airbnb. I actually stayed at an Airbnb, and it was a really cool experience because I was getting in late, and the owner of the property said, "Hey, I've got this lock. I'm going to send you an electronic key. Go download the Kēvo app." And I was like, "Huh, that's interesting." So that was kind of a surreal moment for
Little
me to
did he know.
experience my product in the field. Yeah, it was like 10 o'clock at night, so I didn't feel like getting into it, but it was a cool moment for me.
That's funny.
Oh, very cool. So, one more quick question about the hardware itself, real quick. I know you mentioned earlier that the reason you chose like BTLE was because of battery life. What is your ideal battery usage? How long do you get out of a battery, and what type of batteries do you use?
Yeah, so Kēvo comes with just 4 Rayovac batteries, and they're included in it. And we truly do get a year's worth of battery life out of it. So Kwikset came to us and said, we need a year, and our average use is 10 actuations a day. So we need 3,650 actuations over a 12-month period, and that's the bar. And we had to figure out a way to hit it, and it was not easy. There was a tremendous amount of work that went into the design and the power management in order to pull that off. So in normal use cases, you truly can get a year out of this lock.
Very cool. Let's see. I did want to ask about I thought your exclusion of using geofencing and GPS functionality currently was insightful. I was kind of reading about that, and can you touch on some of the reasoning behind why you guys have actually made the conscious decision to not include geofencing in your product right now?
Yeah, I mean, the problem with that, and we identified this real early on when we ultimately came to our solution of inside-outside detection with our highly directional antennas and smart learning algorithm intelligence that can tell what side of the door you're on. But that's all a local interaction between the lock and the phone, and it can work completely offline if you have an owner or an administrator key. You don't need to have a network connection. You don't need to rely on GPS. You can get into your home. When you start bringing in things like GPS to the equation, number one, everybody who knows anything about GPS, it's highly inaccurate. If you're looking at it on your phone, you can see it bouncing around. You can see you're within 600 meters of this, and that's sometimes it can see the satellites, and sometimes it's using cell tower triangulation. So for location services, it's not always even using GPS. So you can bounce around a lot. And when you talk about bouncing around, you can kind of envision your door lock locking and unlocking. So
right.
That's not something you want. You want to tell your door what to do. If you just rely on GPS and you walk by your door, it may unlock, and then you don't even know that it's unlocked. So that's why we have this interaction. Just like when you're getting in your car and you grab the door handle with the passive entry systems on the car, they unlock. You touch our lock and say, "Hey, I want to lock or unlock you." So it's super important to not rely on those other services.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that, and I think your reasoning is sound there. You talked about inside-outside intelligence in that answer, and I think you should elaborate a little more on that, because I think it's one of the neatest features on there in terms of a well thought out product. And can you talk about what inside-outside intelligence is and why you guys put all the work in to make that function?
Yeah, so I think we touched on the fact that we have 2 highly directional antennas, one on the outside and one on the inside. And we have a learning, we actually use neural network learning to figure out the environment of your front door. Some people have their door in a hallway, and some people it's open, and some have an overhang. And RF tends to react differently in different environments. So we actually learn the patterns of your area upon the first time you interact with your lock. So we auto calibrate, we call it. And then it refines over time, and where you keep your phone, it learns, and we call this authorized bubble on the outside. So there's about a 5 or 6 foot bubble on the outside where it works, and then it doesn't work anywhere else or on the inside. And it's very smart and complex, and our guys put a tremendous amount of time into it, and it's working extremely well.
That's pretty cool, considering this isn't, I don't think it's the same kind of technology that like you would have on a car, right? So I have one of those cars that has like the the electronic key that you don't have to put in anywhere, and you unlock the door. But if you try and shut your door and lock it with the key still inside, it won't do that.
It's a similar concept, fundamentally different technology.
Right. Yeah. Bluetooth, completely different than that.
Yeah. And to, not to pat ourselves on the back, but it was a little bit harder to do with Bluetooth. They use magnetic fields, which are a little bit easier to work with.
Right. Very cool. Very cool. So, I mean, that kind of brings me to, I mean, I wouldn't be an integrator if I didn't ask about integration technologies. Using and being only Bluetooth, it probably limits you to what you could do, and integrate with, most of the technologies out there are IP based or Zigbee, Z-Wave, etc. What are you looking? Do you have any third party integration or for an API or anything like that?
Not yet. Mainly because we take security very seriously here. We say it's one thing if it's your thermostat or light bulbs that get hacked on. What if somebody flickers on and off your lights or turns up and down your thermostat? Whole different ballgame when you talk about your front door. So, we have one of the best security models, and it's not just in our architecture, but it's our implementation of that architecture that makes it so secure. And so we haven't opened up that to anybody just yet, because you're only as good as your weakest point. So we're being very, very careful, but we are talking strategically to some leaders within the industry, and some of the higher and well-known home automation products that we will offer some levels of integration on. We're just being very careful about it and making sure that we protect our customers, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, Seth and I, like he alluded to, are professional integrators, and we're always like, come on, open up an API, like let us integrate with it. But like you said, locks are a different ballgame, and it's one thing for your entertainment system to maybe not be the strongest in terms of security, but yeah, I can totally see your reasoning there, and I think that having your end users feel very secure in using your product trumps everything when you're dealing with a smart lock. So I think that makes perfect sense. We're kind of running up against our time here, Phil, and we really appreciate you taking the time to come on Home Tech and join us. What's kind of cooking right now? What's next for UniKey? What are you guys getting excited about these days?
Yeah, so again, we're focused on your keychain. So we did already announce the hospitality solution, where you don't have to go to the front desk to check in anymore. You can literally just check in on your app and walk straight to your room and grab the handle and walk right in. So we're really excited about that experience, which will be in beta early next year and launch later next year. We've got an international European lock coming out next year. And then we're really focusing on moving into commercial properties and automotive solutions to really get rid of any key you have. So think about all the major keys. We're just going to knock them off one by one.
Oh, that would be so cool. I could just use my phone to go everywhere. And with Apple Pay and NFC on Android, you don't even need to leave the house anything but your phone.
Yeah, I think everybody knows that's the future, right? Your phone really will be the only thing you have to leave the house with, and until they embed that in your head, which I think will be quite a ways away.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Phil, thanks. I want to thank you again as well for joining us here on Home Tech. If someone listening wants to find out a little bit more about Kēvo and UniKey, where's a good place they can reach out to you and find out more?
Yeah, Kēvo, if you go to www.mykēvo.com, you can find out anything about the product on Kēvo. We're really proud of it and a super cool product. And then UniKey and what we're doing next, www.unikey.com. And we have a interest list where you can sign up and get updates on the latest stuff coming out.
Very cool. And where would you find that Android beta? Is that something you have open to the public right now?
Yeah, it's just become available at mykēvo.com/beta/Android.
Very cool. We'll try and include a link for everything that you just mentioned in the show note too. So, Phil, thanks for joining us on Home Tech.
Great. Thanks for having me.
All right, Phil. Take care.